Good morning, gamers! Cooper here again for another TF2 commentary tutorial. Welcome to the 9th and final episode of my Man vs. Machine class guides. Today I'll be making another Man vs. Machine guide detailing the Spy. I hope you find this guide informative and that you play better in the future for seeing it. Now the advice I'll be giving is my own opinion, which is a mix of my gameplay experiences and discussions I've had with other players. Now the first thing we're going to talk about are the Spy loadouts. For the Spy sidearm, my top recommendations are the Enforcer, the L'Étranger, or the default revolver. When it comes to your cloaking device, your best choice is the Dead Ringer. Following that, you could still use the Cloak and Dagger and the Invisawatch, but they will require a very different sort of strategy when you're playing. The Spy also has the Sapper tool and the Disguise kit, but there aren't any substitutions available for those tools within MVM. The last loadout option to address is the melee weapon. Your top 3 choices for the melee weapon in no particular order are the spy-icycle, the big earner, or the default knife. I will give the carnivorous kunai an honorable mention, but the weapon is extremely difficult to use in MVM because of the health deduction. Just a quick note on the Diamondback and the red tape recorder. The Diamondback crit bonus does not apply to sapping robots in MVM, and the red tape recorder functions in the same way the regular sapper does within MVM. When I play as the Spy, I use the L'Étranger, the Dead Ringer, and my main weapon is either going to be the spy-icycle or the big earner. I like the L'Étranger as a tool to help quickly refuel my Dead Ringer. Admittingly, I would rather use the Enforcer for the damage output, but since I don't have the Enforcer, the L'Étranger is a decent substitute. I think the Dead Ringer is your best choice of cloaking device because it increases your survivability and allows you an easy out if things get a little too intense. Now I have yet to decide whether I prefer to use the big earner or the spy-icycle. I do like the big earner because of the cloak bonus you receive on kill, though you do have less health to work with, as opposed to the icicle, which is good for fireproofing, but can leave you without a weapon. Now that we've addressed the loadouts, let's go discuss class upgrades. The Spy is a class where I feel it is necessary to purchase character upgrades to increase the class's utility and durability. I recommend class upgrades like health regeneration so you don't have to hunt for med kits, and I think you should also purchase speed upgrades so you can keep up with the faster robots and dodge enemy fire. Fire resistance might also be a smart purchase considering the fact you will have a serious problem dealing with pyros. In regards to my primary sidearm, I don't spend any money upgrading the L'Étranger since it is a situational weapon. The Sapper is the Spy's greatest tool to stall the horde and kill robots, so this should be one of the first things you upgrade. The remainder of my cash goes to upgrade my melee weapon. Attack speed is something you should upgrade first to increase the frequency of which you can kill robots, and depending on the strategy of the Spy you play, you should also purchase armor penetration to increase the speed at which you can damage giants. On a final note, there are no upgrades for the Dead Ringer cloaking device or the Disguise kit. So now that we've covered upgrades, let's talk a bit about playing the Spy. The Spy's enhanced abilities in the MVM manual describe the class's ability to use sappers to disable multiple robots and slow giants, the ability to upgrade the knife to penetrate armor and better fight giants, and the Spy's disguise being able to fool all enemies unless the Spy is set on fire or if the robots detect a nearby backstab. The Spy has 3 main responsibilities. The Spy's third responsibility is to collect money. If you're on a good team, you should have a scout doing this job for you, but even he can't be everywhere at once. The Spy's second responsibility is to be killing the support robots. The Spy's ability to disguise makes it easy to kill engineers, snipers, and medics. The Spy's number 1 priority is to kill the robots. The Spy is in a fighting position with his knife, gun, and sapper to seriously thin out waves, allowing for your allies to focus on tougher targets or to generally have an easier time keeping the bomb grounded. Now that we've touched on the Spy's responsibilities, let's talk about playing the Spy. The tactic I use when playing as the Spy is what I call lurking. Lurking involves sneaking up behind a wave, sapping the target, backstabbing other nearby targets before escaping and redisguising. Rinse and repeat. I found the Spy is much more effective on maps like Decoy and Coal Town, where the direction of the bots is limited compared to far more open maps like Manworks. I also found these maps tended to have fewer pyros amongst the waves, making the experience of playing a Spy much easier. Playing as the Spy requires a special sort of memorization for your hotkeys and other controls. On my keyboard, pressing the B button automatically disguises my character, which means I never really have to equip my disguise kit because it's a hotkey. The spy can do decent damage against giants when you backstab them, but don't get too greedy. After 2 to 3 stabs, the giant will turn around and try to kill you, and at that time you need to disguise and find cover. Unfortunately, the spy is a class that will take significant damage because of nearby friendlies. Try to position yourself away from scouts and pyros so that you don't get hit by proximity. The spy can hurt tanks, but they are far more effective at dispatching the small bomb carriers that often accompany tank waves. The sapper is probably the greatest tool at your disposal, and even though it won't halt giants, it will certainly slow them down. Remember that you are a support class, so do everything in your power to support your team. Now in my sniper video I addressed the issue of the sniper conundrum. The spy is another class that gets a lot of hate with a similar conundrum. I think that this is attributable to the spy's ineffectiveness in the early waves, and bad players themselves. I think the spy is one of the hardest classes to play in MVM. No, the hardest class to play in MVM. People's disdain for the spy isn't the same as the snipers because snipers are shut down for their overuse. People dislike the spy because of the class's ineffectiveness in the hands of an inexperienced player. The irony of this is that inexperienced players need practice to improve. Now for my final notes on playing the spy. Playing the spy takes practice. I would say that the spy is the hardest class to play in MVM. The spy is one of the few classes that actively uses more than one weapon. Admittingly, the spy is not a class I like to play in MVM, at all. In fact, when I was playing this and getting footage, I was just plain awful, because there's a rhythm to playing the spy that took me time to adjust for. If you don't play as the spy often, it will take you 1 to 4 waves to adjust, but after 2 games you will be fairly comfortable playing. I think the spy is a secondary class. I do think the class's ability to sneak about and kill dozens of robots through backstabbing is amazing, but it doesn't earn a permanent seat on my fantasy MVM team. I think a competitive team can play with up to 1 spy on a team, but that spy must be very skilled. I hope you guys found this guide informative. Please comment on any other tips you have when playing the spy, and don't forget to like and share this video with your friends. Happy hunting, and I'll see you at Badwater Basin.